In a luxury apartment in Manhattan, Olivia Carter stood by the window, overlooking the city at dusk. At 42, she was a respected investment analyst on Wall Street. On her desk lay a wedding invitation. It was for her own wedding with her fiancé Ethan. Olivia took a deep breath as she looked back on her past. Marriage. It was a word that evoked joy, but also long-suppressed conflicts with her family. Especially complex was her relationship with her sister, Sophia. From childhood, Olivia and Sophia's relationship was colored by competition and jealousy. Sophia was the desired child, while Olivia was the unexpected gift born 10 months later. At least that's what their grandmother Martha used to say. Olivia traced back to her childhood memories, the days when her parents, James and Eleanor, clearly favored Sophia. In family photos, Sophia would be seated in the center while Olivia was positioned at the edge. On family trips, they would take only Sophia, often leaving Olivia with her grandparents. One summer day, when Olivia was 7, she overheard that her parents were taking Sophia to Disneyland. Her little heart leapt with joy. But that joy did not last long. Sorry, Olivia. Her mother Eleanor's words still echoed in her ears. This time, we're only taking Sophia. You'll get your turn next time. Olivia struggled to hold back her tears. But I want to go too, her father James said sternly. Olivia, just stay quietly at your grandparents'. Sophia needs special consideration. The words special consideration deeply engraved themselves in Olivia's heart. Why was Sophia always special? Why was she always second? However, that next time never came. Olivia spent the time alone at her grandparents', looking at family photos. The loneliness of that moment left a deep scar in her heart. As she grew older, around 6 or 7, Olivia began to acutely feel the unfairness of her treatment. Gradually, loneliness and anger started to sprout in her heart. For Olivia, the only solace was the time spent with her grandparents. Her grandfather George and grandmother Martha showered her with unconditional love. Olivia, you are special. Martha's kind voice echoed in her memories. But sometimes that can be a burden. Be strong. George introduced her to the joys of mathematics and science. The times he taught her became a safe haven for Olivia. There, she could study and explore freely, away from her parents' and sisters' scrutiny. One day, her grandfather showed her an old telescope. This was passed down from my father, he said nostalgically. Looking at the stars, you realize how small our problems are. That night, Olivia and George observed the stars on the rooftop. Amidst the vast universe, she felt her own insignificance, but also sensed infinite possibilities. Knowledge is power, Olivia, George often said. It's a treasure no one can take from you. Olivia escaped reality by reading books. She tried to prove her worth by solving math problems. But in her parents' eyes, she was just a good girl, never special. Why can't you be more outgoing like Sophia? Her father James's words stung. Go outside and make some friends. But for Olivia, the outside world was always a threat. Her classmates called her weird and made her a target of ridicule. Sophia, popular as she was, never protected Olivia. In fact, she sometimes joined in the teasing. One day, during a school break, Olivia was reading a book in a corner of the library. Suddenly, her classmates surrounded her. Look, she's reading alone again, a girl laughed. Don't you have any friends? Olivia blushed and was at a loss for words. Just then, Sophia passed by. For a moment, Olivia thought her sister might help her. However, Sophia looked at Olivia coldly and said, "Leave her alone. My sister is a bit special." Olivia's classmates burst into laughter. Olivia, clutching her book, ran into the bathroom and cried. The pain of being betrayed by her sister hurt her more deeply than the words of her classmates. During high school, the relationship between Olivia and Sophia became even more complex. Olivia excelled academically, while Sophia was sociable and popular. Every time Olivia answered correctly in class, her classmates sighed and muttered, "There she goes again." While she was proud of her talent, Olivia was tormented by loneliness. She immersed herself in libraries and labs, finding her worth through knowledge absorption. One day during a chemistry experiment, Olivia made a remarkable discovery. Her results challenged textbook theories. Excited, she reported to her teacher, who praised her talent. But the joy was short-lived. Sophia suddenly appeared and said, "Are you trying to draw attention with your weird experiments again? I'll tell Mom and Dad." Olivia was speechless. Why couldn't her sister be happy for her success? Why was she always trying to crush her? That evening, her parents scolded Olivia harshly. "Don't cause trouble for the teacher with unnecessary actions," her father scolded. "Just sit quietly in class," her mother added. Olivia cried in her room, pondering why her talent was seen as a sin. That night, she resolved to find a place where her talents would be recognized and to achieve success so undeniable that everyone would have to acknowledge her value. One day, Olivia formed a group with girls she met in art class. They understood and accepted her intellectual side. For the first time, Olivia felt the warmth of friendship. They gathered at a cafe after school, passionately discussing art, science, philosophy. Olivia freely expressed her opinions on every topic, impressing her friends with her knowledge and insight. "Olivia, you're really interesting," her friend Jessica said. "I wonder why I didn't get to know you sooner." Olivia felt she had finally found a place where she belonged. But this happiness was short-lived. Sophia wanted to join the group. She couldn't bear Olivia becoming close to anyone else. One afternoon, Sophia approached Olivia's group. "Hey, let me join too," she said sweetly. Olivia's friends were hesitant, knowing how Sophia had treated Olivia. "Sorry," Jessica said kindly. "But this group is." Sophia's expression turned fierce. "Why won't you let me join?" Sophia's voice of anger echoed in the hallway. "You're the worst sister." That night, Sophia complained to their parents, crying that Olivia was being mean and wouldn't let her join the friend group. Their parents sided with Sophia. "Olivia, why can't you be more compassionate?" Her mother Eleanor's reproachful words stung. "Sophia is your sister. Try to get along better." Olivia tried to stand by her decision, but it wasn't easy. There were nights when she cried into her pillow. Why did she have to suffer like this? Why couldn't her parents understand her feelings? However, this experience made her stronger. Olivia learned that her value lay not in others' judgments but within herself. She dedicated herself even more to her studies, setting her sights on a future goal to succeed on Wall Street. That was her form of revenge and self-affirmation. In her final year of high school, Olivia won a national mathematics contest. Her name became known throughout the school and was even featured in the local newspaper. For the first time, Olivia tasted the joy of having her talent recognized. However, this joy was fleeting as new problems arose at home. Sophia was jealous of Olivia's success, fearing that their parents' attention would shift to Olivia. One day, Sophia told their parents a lie about Olivia. Sophia told them that Olivia had a secret boyfriend and was using drugs. James confronted Olivia harshly. "Is it true?" His voice trembled with anger. "I can't believe you would do such a thing." Olivia tried desperately to explain, but he wouldn't listen to her. Eleanor just stood there silently. "Why won't you believe me?" Olivia pleaded through tears. "I've always been honest. You only believe Sophia's words." However, their parents' attitude remained unchanged. In their eyes, Sophia was always right, and Olivia was the problem child. Filled with anger and disappointment, Olivia strongly accused Sophia. "Why would you lie like that?" she shouted. "What have I ever done to you?" Then, suddenly, Sophia pushed Olivia. Olivia hit her head on a shelf behind her, and blood gushed from her nose. The betrayal from her family hurt more deeply than the physical pain. Their parents took Olivia to the hospital, but they continued to defend Sophia. "It was an accident," James repeated. Sophia didn't mean it. Alone in the hospital waiting room, Olivia sat quietly. The pain in her head and heart mingled, and tears filled her eyes. A nurse approached her kindly. "Are you okay? What happened?" Her voice was warm. Olivia hesitated. Olivia had never spoken to anyone about her family's issues before, but Olivia felt she couldn't endure it anymore. Olivia took a deep breath and began to tell her everything. The nurse listened intently, nodding occasionally. When Olivia finished, she spoke quietly. "I'm worried about your safety. May I contact Child Protective Services?" Olivia hesitated for a moment, but then nodded. She thought this might be the only way to change the situation. CPS's involvement caused a huge stir in the family. Her parents were furious and blamed Olivia. "Why did you do that?" Eleanor's scream echoed through the hospital corridors. "How could you let outsiders know about our family issues? You betrayed your family." James looked at Olivia coldly. "You are now a disgrace to our family. Don't ever show your face again." Olivia listened to her parents' words with tears streaming down her face. Her heart felt like it was being torn apart. But she also felt a strange sense of liberation. As a result of this incident, Olivia moved in with her grandparents. Her parents hardly resisted. In fact, they seemed almost relieved that Olivia was leaving the house. At her grandparents' home, Olivia experienced the warmth of a true family for the first time. Olivia woke up to the smell of her grandmother's breakfast every morning, and at night she enjoyed philosophical conversations with her grandfather while stargazing. "Life isn't easy," Olivia, her grandfather, said. "But with each difficulty you overcome, you become stronger. Don't forget you have infinite potential." After graduating from high school, Olivia received a full scholarship to Columbia University. The moment Olivia stepped onto the campus, she felt a surge of emotion. Here, she could start a new life. No one knew her past. No one saw her as Sophia's sister, but as Olivia. University life was full of surprises for Olivia. Her intelligence and diligence were highly regarded, and she became well known among the professors. Her friends accepted and respected her unique personality. Olivia particularly shone in economics classes. Her sharp analytical skills and original thinking amazed the professors. One day, a renowned professor stopped her. "Olivia, your latest report was excellent," he smiled. "You have great potential. Would you be interested in working on Wall Street?" Olivia's eyes lit up. This was the opportunity she had been waiting for. However, occasionally, when she remembered her family, she felt a painful tightening in her chest. Her contact with her parents was rare, mostly just a birthday card sent her way. She heard nothing from Sophia. Sometimes Olivia would look through her family albums, pictures of her smiling parents and Sophia, with her standing on the edge. Each time she saw those photos, her heart filled with complex emotions. In her sophomore year in college, Olivia met Ethan in the library. He was a law student who understood her intellect and introverted nature. They clicked and eventually became a couple. "You're an incredible person, Olivia." Ethan's words resonated with her. "I can't believe your family misses that." Being with Ethan gave her a new perspective. She learned the joy of being loved and reevaluated her own worth. It also made her deeply contemplate her relationship with her family. "Should I forgive them?" Olivia asked Ethan one night. He chose his words carefully. "That's for you to decide." "But I've heard that forgiving isn't for the other person, it's for lifting the weight off your own heart." Olivia pondered his words for a long time. Gradually, something inside her began to change. After graduating, Olivia joined a major investment bank on Wall Street. Her analytical skills and insights were highly valued, and she quickly climbed the ranks. By her mid-30s, she was a noted figure in the industry. One day, Olivia was assigned a major project that could define her career. She worked through many sleepless nights to prepare the best presentation possible. On the day of the presentation, the conference room was packed with executives. Despite her nerves, Olivia began confidently. Her analysis was sharp, her proposals innovative. After she finished, the room fell silent. Then, the CEO stood and started to clap. The other executives followed. "Great job, Mizu Carter," the CEO said with a broad smile. "Thanks to you, our company will make significant progress." At that moment, Olivia felt her talents were fully recognized. Tears welled up in her eyes. It was the moment all her hard work paid off. Meanwhile, Ethan had become a successful lawyer working on human rights issues. Despite their busy lives, they supported each other and shared a strong bond. After 8 years together, Ethan proposed. He knelt in front of her favorite painting at the museum Olivia loved. "Olivia, I want to share my life with you," his voice trembled. "Will you marry me?" Olivia nodded through tears. "Yes, gladly." That night, as they discussed our future, an inevitable topic came up: whether to invite her family to the wedding. Olivia called her grandparents to share the news. Their voices of joy brought tears to her eyes. "Your happiness means everything, Olivia," her grandmother's warm voice said. "You deserve this." But reaching out to her parents and Sophia was not easy. Years of resentment slowed her hand as she tried to dial their numbers. Olivia started the call several times but stopped. Memories of the past and current emotions clashed within her. Ultimately, Olivia decided to send a brief message. Olivia wrote and rewrote it several times, finally settling on a simple text. "Dad, Mom, and Sophia, I am engaged to a man named Ethan. Our wedding is on the 15th next month. You are welcome to attend if you'd like." After pressing send, Olivia's heart pounded. She spent the next few days uneasy, unable to focus at work or sleep at night. Ethan supported her gently. "It's okay, Olivia. Whatever their response, I'm here with you." As expected, her parents' reply was lukewarm. "Congratulations. Your father should walk you down the aisle," her mother's message read. It was a demand, not a blessing. Sophia's response was even worse. "Are you trying to shame me by getting married before your older sister? You always think only of yourself." Reading these messages, Olivia felt a painful tightness in her chest. Even after all these years, nothing had changed with her family. It was sad to realize that she had no family to genuinely rejoice in her success and happiness. Olivia sought Ethan's help. "Should I invite them? But if they come, they will surely ruin the ceremony." Ethan took her hand. "I support whatever decision you make, but I want you to choose without regrets. This is our day, but it might also be a chance to reconcile with your family." Olivia thought deeply for a long time. She wavered between the pain of the past and a slight hope for reconciliation. Inside her, a dialogue started between the memories of her childhood and her current self. 2 weeks before the wedding, Olivia made her final decision. She would invite her parents and Sophia, but they would not have major roles. "Dad, I've asked Grandpa to walk me down the aisle," Olivia told her father over the phone. After a moment of silence, her father's angry voice came through. "What a selfish daughter. We raised you." Olivia, controlling her trembling voice, responded, "Yes, you raised me, but it was my grandparents who loved me. On the most important day of my life, I want someone by my side who truly supports me." It seemed her father lost his words for a moment, but he quickly regained his anger. "You are no longer our daughter." After the call ended, Olivia cried for a long time. But these were not only tears of sadness. They were also tears of liberation. Years of suppressed emotions were finally being released. Ethan simply held Olivia without a word. No words were necessary. His presence alone comforted her. Preparations for the wedding progressed steadily. Olivia, amidst her busy schedule, ran around selecting dresses and arranging flower arrangements, temporarily forgetting her family issues. However, a week before the wedding, Another shock awaited her. It was a call from her father. "Olivia, I need to talk to you." His voice was tense. "About your wedding day. I can't make it anymore." Olivia's heart nearly stopped. "What do you mean?" "Sophia has been promoted to VP of a major company. The celebration is on the same day as your wedding." His words faded away. Memories from Olivia's childhood came flooding back vividly. Days when Sophia was always the priority, the pain of being secondary. And now, even on the most important day of her life, they chose her sister. "I understand," Olivia responded coldly. "Enjoy yourselves." After hanging up, Olivia collapsed to the floor. Ethan rushed over and held her. "It's okay, Olivia? I'm here with you." His voice helped her regain some strength. That night, Olivia couldn't sleep. She stood by the window, looking out over nighttime Manhattan. The city lights seemed to reflect her complex emotions. Memories kept coming back. The day she wasn't taken to Disneyland. The parents who didn't celebrate her school successes. The days she was punished for Sophia's lies. And the moment she was coldly kicked out after CPS's intervention. Olivia took a deep breath. Yes, that's enough. She no longer needed her parents' or Sophia's approval. She had her own life. She had Ethan, understanding friends, and grandparents who loved her unconditionally. The next morning, Olivia woke up with a determined expression. "Ethan, we will go ahead with our wedding as planned. Even if my parents and Sophia aren't there, we have our true family." Ethan smiled gently. "Yes, we have each other. And we have your grandparents who love you, and our friends." On the wedding day, Olivia walked to the altar on the arm of her grandfather George. She wore a pure white dress, with small flowers in her hair. The venue was filled with their dear friends. Though her parents and Sophia were absent, Ethan's loving gaze enveloped her. "We are creating a new family," Olivia whispered to herself internally. "A family filled with understanding and love." As they exchanged vows, Olivia looked into Ethan's eyes, where she saw unconditional love. "I vow to love, respect, and cherish Olivia Carter, in sickness and in health, for better or for worse." Ethan's voice trembled with emotion. Olivia repeated the words. At that moment, she felt truly liberated. At the reception, Olivia danced with a smile, surrounded by her closest friends. Her grandparents watched their granddaughter with pride. Ethan's parents also warmly welcomed Olivia as if she were their own daughter. However, the absence of her parents and Sophia remained a slight pain in her heart. During a break from dancing, Olivia stood by the window, looking out. Unexpectedly, Sophia approached her. "Olivia." Sophia's voice was shaky. "I want to apologize." Surprised, Olivia turned around. Sophia was dressed in a glamorous dress, but looked tired. "Sophia, why are you here?" Olivia couldn't hide her confusion. "I left my promotion celebration early," Sophia said quietly. "I felt I needed to be here at your wedding." Olivia was overwhelmed with mixed emotions: anger, sadness, and a glimmer of hope. "I truly regret what I've done," Sophia continued. "I've always been jealous of your strength, your intelligence, and the love you received." Olivia listened silently as her sister spoke. "It may be hard to repair our relationship," Sophia said, "but if you can forgive me, I'd like to start over." Olivia took a deep breath. Years of emotions clashed within her. "Sophia, I can't forgive you easily," Olivia said quietly. "But I'm glad you came. Perhaps we can slowly build our relationship." Tears glistened in Sophia's eyes. She hesitantly reached out her hand to Olivia, who after a moment's hesitation took it. They stood side by side in silence, looking out at the Manhattan nightscape that seemed to celebrate a new beginning. 2 months after the wedding, a message from her parents arrived in Olivia's mailbox. "Olivia, we've made a big mistake. We deeply regret not attending your wedding. We don't know if you can forgive us, but if possible, we'd like to meet and talk." Olivia was torn with complex emotions. Should she forgive them, or should she continue to cut ties? She refrained from replying immediately. "Ethan, what do you think?" she consulted her husband. Ethan smiled gently. "Maybe it's okay to wait until you feel settled. There's no need to rush." Olivia nodded. Yes, she no longer needed to be rushed into any decisions. She could take her time and honestly face her feelings. A new life, a new family, and the possibility of reconciling with the past. Various options lay before Olivia. She took a deep breath, ready to step forward into the future. She also decided to start therapy to heal past traumas and build healthier relationships. "I have a loving husband, understanding friends, and grandparents who love me unconditionally." Olivia reminded herself, "I am not alone. I can get through this." A new chapter was beginning. Though challenges awaited, Olivia had the strength to overcome them. Moreover, she was blessed with a true family. Blood alone does not define a family. Love and understanding forge real bonds. Olivia looked out the window. The Manhattan nightscape shone brightly. A new day and new challenges awaited. But for now, a calm happiness spread through her heart. Ethan embraced her from behind. "What are you thinking about?" Olivia smiled. "Our future. And reconciling with the past." "Let's overcome it together," Ethan said gently. Wrapped in her husband's arms, Olivia felt secure. She had built her life through her choices, and now she is ready to move forward with her new family. This is not an end, but a new beginning. A new chapter in Olivia's life is about to unfold. Currently at 30 years old, I received a call from the bank a few months ago to confirm a $150,000 loan application. However, I hadn't applied for any loan, and I had no knowledge of it whatsoever. Later, I discovered that my parents had taken out a large loan in my name to fund my sister Olivia's dream wedding. Olivia was pampered from a young age, and I was never particularly close to her. While my parents may bear some responsibility, Olivia is 25 years old and should have had enough time to reconsider her actions. Even during family gatherings, we rarely see each other. The moment that shocked me was learning that my parents, whom I had barely spoken to for a long time, had taken out a substantial loan without consulting me and had even signed me up as the co-signer. I believe Olivia has been with her fiancé, John, for about a year. They got engaged a few months ago, yet I wasn't even invited to the wedding, which was the purpose of the loan. I had expected not to be invited, so I wasn't particularly bothered by it, and my parents never mentioned it, so I didn't think it was an issue. After receiving the call from the bank, I quickly phoned my parents. At first, I thought it was some mistake, but my parents immediately admitted the truth, even going as far as defending Olivia, saying, "As her sister, it's only natural to support her wedding, even if it means signing under your own name." Apparently, Olivia had discussed her need for money for the wedding with my parents, and they couldn't bring themselves to refuse her. Surprisingly, both Olivia and John are employed and should have sufficient income. Nevertheless, they claimed they couldn't cover the wedding expenses on their own funds and pleaded with my parents. Had it not been for Olivia's plan for an extravagant wedding, they could have managed without relying on our parents' assets. They even consulted John's parents, but they refused to pay and set firm limits. So why didn't my parents respond in the same way? To make matters worse, my parents anticipated that I would not agree to the loan, and they even forged my signature. They decided that confirming with me would be too much of a hassle, choosing instead not to contact me at all. When I learned this fact, I couldn't contain my anger toward my parents, but the loan had already been approved, and it was too late for me to do anything. Determined to somehow resolve this situation, I decided to take my parents to court. My father kept repeating, "It's only natural for you to help your sister as a family." Furthermore, he tried to dissuade me by saying, "If you file a lawsuit, you'll only hurt the family," using my sister's involvement as a reason. After hanging up the phone in anger, I realized my father was only worried about the wedding, and the impact on my sister, showing no concern over the fact that my parents had committed fraud. Afterward, I solidified my decision to take legal action, informed my parents of my intentions, and resolved to sever ties with my family. I then called the bank and requested a copy of the documents signed when the loan was contracted. I began preparing to cut ties with my family. After carefully planning the legal steps to avoid a major fallout, I contacted a lawyer. To understand the situation fully, I needed to know every detail. While reviewing the loan contract, I felt a sense of despair. What particularly caught my attention was the condition that the loan had to be repaid within 2 years. This was a heavy burden for me. My parents knew that I was planning to start my own business in the near future. Despite having spent months securing funding and seeking investors, my parents had shown no regard for my plans. They should have known I intended to quit my job soon, meaning I wouldn't have a stable income for a while. Yet now, I'm in a situation where a single late payment would trigger the obligation to repay the $150,000 loan. It seemed my parents hadn't really considered just how heavy a burden this would be. Thinking my future and personal plans were irrelevant, I logged into Facebook and searched for my sister's fiancé, John. At that moment, I felt something shift within me. If they had dragged me into this situation, I felt I needed to let everyone know the truth. I detailed how my parents had taken out a loan in my name, forged my signature, and drafted all the paperwork without my consent. I advised John to break off the engagement immediately and reconsider marrying into a family capable of such actions. Additionally, I sent the same message to my sister's friends, relatives, and my parents. I felt they all deserved to know the truth. Yet, deep down, I wondered if I had gone a bit too far. I also wanted to confirm if my sister herself knew about the situation. She was always close to our parents, so it was hard to imagine they would do something like this without her knowledge. The response was immediate. My parents were furious. They desperately begged me to retract my statements and repeatedly reached out to my sister. It turned out my sister was unaware of the loan or the fact that I was made the co-signer. Upon learning the truth, she was not only upset about being lied to but also angry that she would now have to cover the wedding expenses herself. And she was livid with our parents. As usual, my mother became emotional, loudly blaming me for destroying everything and insisting I had no right to interfere. My parents condemned me for telling John and his family the truth, but I paid them no mind. Looking back now, I wonder if there was ever truly a need to support my sister to such an extent. My parents intended to deceive me to give her the money, but then I heard from my sister, who had learned the whole story. She said, "I wasn't told about the loan, but you should have discussed it with our family before telling John and his family." My sister accused me of ruining her marriage and wedding plans. She's not entirely wrong. I admit I should have discussed the issue with the family first, but did she truly know nothing about it? I began to feel uneasy, wondering if I had gone too far. By exposing the truth, had I really done the right thing? Since I had dragged John's family into the situation and created chaos, I decided to take responsibility and resolve it once everything was settled. However, I remained firm in my decision to pursue legal action. The bank responded, stating that they would investigate the fraudulent loan application, and since the loan wasn't fully processed, I was told I wouldn't be responsible for any payments. Fortunately, a few days later, I managed to find the contact information to speak directly with John and his family. My phone wouldn't stop ringing, with calls from my parents, relatives, friends, and messages from my sister. Everyone was blaming me, saying, "You shouldn't have made a family issue public. You went too far." My sister angrily called, saying John and his family were reconsidering the wedding itself because of what I had said, leaving me extremely confused. She accused me, saying I had trampled on her life. She was deeply distressed, as she hadn't known anything about the loan or the co-signing that my parents had arranged. Hearing my sister blame me left me shocked. She advised me that if I had an issue, I should have contacted our parents directly rather than severing ties. When I emailed John and his parents, I was certainly overcome by anger, but I didn't think my actions were wrong at the time. I asked my sister, "You knew everything, didn't you?" But she kept insisting, "It's none of my business." So, I once again told her how our parents had always prioritized her over me, always saying yes to her, and now committing fraud under my name to fulfill her wishes. She wasn't willing to accept that easily. Since she didn't seem to be lying, I began to wonder if I had been wrong to assume she was involved in the first place. I wasn't sure whether to trust my sister, but I wasn't ready to give up so easily. The next morning, I received a call from my mother. She was extremely upset, crying on the phone and desperately pleading with me to reconsider. My mother told me that John had broken off his engagement with my sister, but when I spoke with her last night, she didn't mention it at all. She only said the situation was difficult, without a word about him ending the engagement. I was shocked but couldn't express it, and my mother told me how distraught my sister was and how much she blamed me. It seemed that my suggestion for him to reconsider the engagement had made him feel the situation was grave. My mother went on for quite some time about how I had ruined my sister's life, torn our family apart, and caused everyone pain. I listened quietly, feeling both a sense of guilt and a strange conviction that I hadn't acted wrongly. In some corner of my heart, I couldn't deny the satisfaction of seeing my parents suffer. I felt genuinely sorry that my sister's wedding had fallen apart. When my mother finished speaking, I firmly stated, "I'm not going to apologize for telling them the truth." I reminded her not to forget that they had committed fraud. I am not the villain here. I criticized my parents for signing those documents without my consent. My mother still seemed unable to grasp the situation. The rest of the week passed in a daze, but my mother kept repeating that I should have turned a blind eye to keep the family together and maintain peace. I was able to avoid contact with my family, but rumors quickly spread that something was wrong, and relatives began offering their opinions on my response. Some people encouraged me, saying, "You have every right to be angry," while others advised, "You shouldn't make family matters public like this." During this time, my sister started posting aggressively on social media, venting her feelings without directing it at anyone in particular, myself, her friends, or anyone else. I felt uncomfortable with people who, without fully understanding the situation, expressed sympathy and support. They wrote whatever they pleased, about how people only wanted to see things get worse, or that the worst betrayal came from people like that. But I had no intention of engaging. I wasn't interested in a social media battle with my own sister. A few days later, my sister contacted me again. She was still angry, but a bit calmer than before. She told me, "The engagement has officially been called off. I'm breaking up with John, and his family has completely cut off contact with me." She also mentioned that she'd be moving out of the shared house and planned to stay with a friend for a while. However, what she said next truly shocked me. She admitted to me that she had known about the loan. I was stunned. After all her declarations of being uninvolved and knowing nothing about our parents' actions, she finally admitted that she had been aware of it from the beginning. She insisted, "I might have gone about it the wrong way, but I thought everything would be fine once the wedding was over." She added, "I didn't think it would become such a big deal." Furthermore, she mentioned that she hadn't expected the bank to contact me directly. When I asked, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" she replied, "I was too scared to say anything." It seemed they had planned to keep everything a secret from me. My sister was worried that if I found out it would jeopardize the wedding. But that worry became a reality. When she said, "I thought he'd marry me once things settled down," I couldn't hide my surprise. However, after he broke things off, she no longer felt the need to keep it a secret. I was filled with guilt over my sister's situation. For the past week, I had been racked with guilt until I learned that she knew about the loan. My sister seemed angry only because her plan had failed, not because her relationship with John had ended. In her anger, she called me a terrible person and immature, to which I responded, "I owe you nothing, and I don't need to return any favors." At that moment, I realized just how damaged our family relationships were, and I was certain there was no going back. After talking with her, I felt a lightness I hadn't experienced in years. My family had never truly cared about me. I no longer needed to worry about people who were indifferent toward me. However, that conversation did nothing to lessen the fallout. Though I hadn't been in touch with my parents for some time, they persistently reached out to me over the following weeks. My relationship with my parents only worsened, and numerous relatives called me, trying to convince me to drop the lawsuit. They said, "Aren't they your parents?" and asked, "Isn't there another way?" They seemed willing to overlook the fact that my parents had committed fraud and they thought legal action was unjust, so I ignored their attempts to persuade me. I kept in regular contact with my lawyer, dedicating myself to gathering as much evidence as possible. The more I learned about my parents' actions, the angrier I became. Not only had they forged my signature, but they had also altered financial records and falsified income to secure the loan. Fortunately, the bank respected my perspective and decided I held no responsibility for the loan. Furthermore, my parents found themselves in serious legal trouble, and the family conflict intensified even more. My sister started living with friends, moving out of her apartment completely to start a new life. She blamed me for her breakup with John, and she was also angry at our parents for creating this situation. One day, I received an email from my aunt Emily. She had remained consistently silent on the matter, one of the few who held a neutral stance. I hadn't planned on involving her, but she suggested we talk over coffee. Since Emily wasn't the type to stir up conflict or take sides, I decided to accept her invitation. When we met, she asked about my current situation. Talking with someone who wasn't trying to control me felt comforting, and I was relieved by her concern. After we chatted about recent events for a while, she casually brought up my parents. "Your parents seem very shaken right now," she said, stirring her coffee gently. "They're quite worried about what might happen if this goes to court. But they should have considered that before committing fraud. I suppose they didn't expect you to take things this far," Emily said with a nod. I knew I wanted to avoid being trampled by them again. "I understand how you feel, but what do you really want?" she asked. "Do you want a sincere apology? Or do you want your parents to pay for what they've done?" Her question took me by surprise. "I just wanted to understand your ultimate goal," she said. I realized that I hadn't considered things from that perspective before. Part of me wanted to be completely free of this situation, while another part felt my parents should face the consequences of their actions. "Maybe I just want them to understand that they can't take me lightly ever again," I replied slowly. I wanted to end this, but I hadn't figured out how. My parents have always been lenient with my sister, no matter the situation, and this time it went even further. I can't simply overlook that. Emily nodded slightly. "I completely understand that feeling. But that's not how it looks to your parents. To them, they see you as the source of all the issues." Her words were painful, but I appreciated her honesty. I had sensed that this was how my parents thought too. As she said, they would never admit their mistakes. She hugged me and encouraged me, saying, "Stay strong." Though my parents had always seen me as the family troublemaker, I felt they were the ones who had fractured our family relationships. "This isn't a big deal. You're not in the wrong as a person," she continued. "Even if your parents won't admit their faults, your actions are more sincere than anything they've done to you." After our conversation, I found myself reflecting on what I truly wanted, even though I knew it might place more strain on the family. I began to consider whether to take this to court, or if there might be another way to resolve things. A few days later, my lawyer called to inform me that my parents' attorney had proposed an out-of-court settlement. I felt some anxiety, considering the legal implications. My parents indicated that they were willing to pay a substantial amount of compensation if I agreed to drop the lawsuit. I felt a desire to move forward, but while I was tempted by their offer, I wasn't sure if I should forgive them so easily. The proposed settlement amount was more than sufficient, as it allowed me to avoid a full-blown legal battle while securing a form of financial justice for their actions. So with my lawyer, I carefully reviewed the details. The settlement was enough to relieve my financial worries, giving me the freedom to focus on my business without the economic stress that had burdened me for so long. Yet, in the back of my mind, I couldn't shake the doubt that this might make them believe I had forgiven them. Still, this settlement felt like a kind of victory. In the end, I decided to accept the offer, agreeing to drop the lawsuit, and my parents agreed to pay the compensation. With this, my issues were resolved, but my parents would still face charges from the bank for fraud. It wasn't an ideal outcome, but once the paperwork was completed and everything was officially over, I felt a sense of accomplishment. Having signed everything and closed the lawsuit, I no longer needed to worry about it. However, this decision had definitively altered my relationship with my sister and parents. The family tradition of spending holidays together was gone, and after this resolution, we would no longer gather as a family. While I thought I'd feel relieved, we had now become little more than strangers, bound only by blood and shared memories. My decision ended the legal issues, and the settlement allowed me to start my new business on a positive note, but it was difficult to let go completely. Even weeks after the settlement, the events lingered in my mind, and I had to accept that my relationship with my family would never be the same. They were still alive, yet I felt as though I had lost my sister and parents forever. However, I had no desire to reach out, and I knew they would never contact me either. One evening, while I was working on paperwork in my new office, I received an email from my aunt, Emily, simply asking, "How have you been?" Since we hadn't been in touch since meeting a few weeks ago, I was surprised to see her message. In her email she wrote, "I know it's been difficult, but don't carry everything on your own." Her words had a bigger impact on me than I had expected. Perhaps she had sensed that something was off. I realized just how isolated I had become. Losing friends, distancing myself from my family, it meant a lot that she reached out to me, even though I had no idea what I truly needed to regain a connection with my family. I resolved to stop carrying the burden alone. A few days later, we met again at the same cafe, and when I felt more settled, she looked at me with gentle eyes. "Family isn't always just about blood ties," she said. I was thinking about the settlement, feeling conflicted about accepting the money. I hadn't entirely let go of my resentment toward my parents. Family is something you choose. It's okay to find others who'll be there for you. You don't need to cling to the past, even if your sister or parents aren't close by, she added. Her words resonated deeply. Cutting ties with family, no matter how much pain they'd caused, was like erasing years of seeking my parents' approval, something that had defined much of my life. I thought it was impossible, but as Emily said, I didn't need to stay trapped in the past. Thanks to her, I was able to move forward and start a life where I no longer depended on the people who had hurt me. It wasn't easy, but it wasn't impossible either. Several weeks passed, and I established my own company. Using the settlement money, I hired employees and began taking on challenges that were both beneficial and achievable on my own. As a result, my days have been incredibly fulfilling. One day, as I was heading home from work, I received a call from an unknown number. Work had become my new source of passion, and for the first time in a while, I felt hopeful about the future. But the past appeared before me in an unexpected way. Something seemed intent on keeping me from leaving the past behind, yet I tried to ignore it. The caller was my sister, and she said, "I want to talk with you one more time." I hadn't been in contact with her since her engagement was broken off, so hearing her voice left me feeling unsettled. Unlike before, she spoke in a very calm tone. "I just found out that our parents are selling the house," she continued. "I thought you should know what's happened, too." Her voice sounded a bit somber. "You probably don't want to hear this from me, but our parents are in debt and have run out of money." Her words left me speechless, and I didn't know how to respond. They lost everything because of what happened with you. But I realized that this is the result of their own actions, and I felt a little bit of guilt. She whispered, Our parents brought this upon themselves with their fraud. I don't feel responsible for their financial ruin, but I don't know what to do either. I couldn't fully understand what my sister expected from me. She had been living with a friend, but that situation seemed to have soured as well. Was she seeking my sympathy, or perhaps my support? Finally, I managed to reply in a calm tone. I know this is a very tough situation. I don't know if there's anything I can do, but our parents' choices led to this outcome. They misled other people. What did our parents want? She immediately asked in response. I wasn't trying to start an argument. I didn't think our parents were entirely without responsibility. I was surprised by her sensitivity to others' emotions and situations. But I knew where I needed to go. I had rarely seen my sister so unsettled. The sister who had always been spoiled, raised with a strong sense of entitlement, suddenly sounded anxious and confused. You need to realize it yourself. Try to approach it as kindly as you can, I said. For years, I had tried talking with our parents, only to reach the conclusion that I had to walk my own path. Maybe it's time for you to walk your own path, too. After a long silence on the other end of the line, she replied, yes, maybe it is. After that, we barely spoke before ending the call. I wasn't entirely sure how I felt in that moment. A few weeks later, I found out that our parents had sold the house and were planning to move to a smaller one. However, I didn't feel I could solve their financial struggles or my sister's issues either. I didn't contact my parents. I had always wanted their approval, but I felt it was finally time to let that desire go. For the first time, I was able to create something solely for myself. For the first time in my life, I felt free from my parents' expectations and control. The journey hadn't been easy, but I felt a sense of joy in being able to use the settlement money to establish my company. I am no longer someone overlooked, I am a valued individual. I will walk forward, living my life to the fullest,